Welcome, everyone, to episode 440 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Penteleresco. I write Step in Podcast 2, and today, Liz Butcher joins the podcast. But this is a momentous day. I've been trying the freelancing thing for about 6-7 months. I've done a lot of things I'm cool. I've experimented with. I've done audiobooks. I've done freelance writing assignments. I got an assignment coming out from Anime Herald. I'm really happy that's going to be coming out soon. I've published novels. I've done a lot of things I'm proud of. That actual elusive career thing has been defining, been evading me. It's like, what is my niche that I do so well? And then it occurred to me, I've been doing this podcast. I've done, in the time since the pandemic has started, I have done 100 episodes. This is literally my 100th episode since the pandemic has come out. My 130th episode this year. This is what I do. So let's take it to the next level. We'll talk more about that in just a bit, but first, let's get to our conversation with Liz, shall we?
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is take 2 of 2 regarding our interview with Liz. Skype was evil. I'm sorry to say, Skype is the evil overlord of evil. I'm glad I don't have to record with them exclusively anymore, but it is what it is. How you doing, Liz?
Good, thank you. How are you?
My usual serious self, and I'm so sorry I had to ask that question twice.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are airing live, and as such, there are wonderful glitches that do happen. And we tried Skype, and Skype said, nope. So we're going to try this one this way, and hopefully this works. And if it does, this will air it in its entirety. And if it doesn't, well, you know, we tried, and I had a lovely time with Miss Liz. So, like I said, we were talking about, like, horror is ultimately about transformation, and that's what you write. That's what you're comfortable writing, and I'm sorry to make you do this twice, but could you explain? Could you explain, like, your fascination with horror, like that transformative aspect with people?
Yeah, so I've always been fascinated with paranormal and ghosts and everything like that. But for me, when I started writing my books in like horror, dark fantasy, I'm more intrigued by horror that comes just as much within the person as it does from external sources. So sort of that real psychological horror, where there's that sort of really thin veil between what the person thinks they're seeing and what they're doubting, and that real grey area. I love sort of messing around in that sort of part of people's brains, because for me, I find that the concept of not being able to trust your own mind and your own senses to be really quite a scary concept. So I think for me, that's where all my sort of horror stems from.
Sounds like you have a thing of playing with your character's ability to control their worlds some way or another. I find it because in today's times, it's interesting because I went through my own personal apocalypse about 12 years ago, and I recognized the fact that you know, a lot of things going on today I've already experienced. And one of the things is when you're confronted with an unbearable obstacle, whatever that unbearable obstacle is, it shows you who you are. You have no choice. And I feel like what you're doing, like when you take senses away, when you take this away, it's that feeling of control just evaporates. And then all of a sudden you're just left with, are you trying to hold it together? Or are you trying to just or what happens when you surrender to whatever it is? What happens next? Am I on the right track, or am I on the wrong one here?
No, absolutely, because in my opinion, fear is the lack of control and the lack of knowledge. So if you don't understand what something is or what's causing it, and you can't control it, that's when the fear sets in. So that really is essentially is the basis of all horror. If there's the ability to understand or control it, it's no longer scary. So if you're lacking those two elements, then all you have is the fear, and that's what I like to play on.
Yeah, well, because that's what everybody's kind of going through right now. Because no one's like in real life, no one's certain about what tomorrow's going to be, and
Yeah, exactly.
right, except for me because I'm crazy, and I in one very real sense, what we're going through right now is no different than any other point. Like there's a lot, in one sense, not much has changed. We wake up. There's always a risk when we wake up that we're not going to see the end of the day. There's always that risk. And when we go to sleep, there's a chance we won't wake up. That's life. That's just the risk we take. And life's a risk, and it always will be. I just think right now more than ever, there's just that stark reminder that control, by and large, is an illusion.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And I think that's where we see in sort of the current climate where we've got sort of people that are saying they don't want to wear masks because it's taking away their freedoms. And I think that's an example of people trying to regain control over a situation where we don't have any. So you're starting to see those kinds of behaviours out just in day-to-day life. People wearing masks, not wearing masks. And again, it's just people are afraid because they can't control what's going on. So they sort of take control in areas where they can, for better or worse.
Oh, absolutely. The mask debate is probably the best example. I think both sides are guilty of this, to be perfectly honest with you. The pro-mask sides, I've seen people take the charge and the crusade to go for the maximum impact of safety. And I get it. You're trying to solve a problem you think you can solve versus something you can't. And it takes your mind off the back of what you can't. But, I mean, that's another way of taking control. And then people resisting are pointing to a government or an outside organization. It's a simpler world. It's a much simpler world. You know, I definitely can understand some of it. At least there is let's be honest, our governments aren't exactly the most trustworthy ones in the world. And when you don't have trust in your government because of its lack of transparency, it's very easy to jump to conclusions. It really is, right? But the same token, the most horrifying truth about the world is that it's not fair. Bad things happen to good people for sometimes no apparent reason that you or I could see. And that's a hard reality to swallow. It's a very hard one to swallow. But it's true. That's life. Like like we all are dealt whatever hands we're dealt. And not everybody's got the same hand, but it's all in how you play it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that's important to draw from when you're writing, especially when you're writing horror. I mean, I don't have happy endings because I don't think that, not just because I write scary things, but I just don't feel that that's really realistic. And I don't expect when I read a book that there's always going to be a happy ending. Closure is one thing. You can have closure, but they don't come out the other end the way they did at the start. So you can't have a happy ending. Too much has happened and too much has changed. And I think that's a reflection of life in general. Like, you're not the same person as you were at the start of the year, and you won't be the same person at the end of the year as you are now. That's just the way things are. It's not to say you're not going to have a happy ending. It's just not going to be what you might have anticipated 12 months ago.
You're not going to be in the same space you started at ever. Like, and unless I actually truly think if you were, you'd be in hell, because that sounds like hell to me. I would rather have ups and downs and enjoy the ups when they're here and the downs when they're gone, because you learn from the downs. You learn from the ups too if you're smart, but you learn from the downs, and you make them, you know, what they are. That's all there is. And so that's kind of I think some people get happy endings? Yeah, I think they do. I think some people don't. Yeah, it's true too. There's a lot of people that don't. Yeah, I think the reality is, I think in fiction, it's what's real to the character, right? I think I like my endings having a little hope to them, even if they are bleak and dark and filled with, like, you know, whatever. I do like the little aspect of kernel of hope, because, again, everything can change, right? But as it stands, I think, I mean, the only constant in life actually is change. Everything else will come and go.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of think also too that if you're not experiencing change, then you're not really living, because the only way you could really not experience change is just to sort of sit in four walls and do literally nothing. And even then, you're still changing on some level. But I think change is growth, and the more you push yourself through the things that scare you while you pursue change, the better off you're going to be for it in the long run.
I absolutely agree with that. So I got to ask you a really tough question.
Oh, no.
Are you ready?
Yeah, okay, good.
What scares you?
Oh, what scares me? Death, 100%.
Death?
Everyone's scared of death. Terrified of the big C. I've had some loved ones go through that. Cancer terrifies me, again, because it's something that you can't control. You can't predict the outcome. You've got no say in what happens, and it's just this insidious thing inside that you can't see, and a horror story in itself, essentially. So anything like that terrifies the crap out of me. Which probably sounds, I guess, boring for a horror writer.
No.
But I'm not scared of the paranormal or anything like that. It's the real life crap that scares me.
Well, would you like a quote-unquote paranormal example of someone facing their mortality?
How do you mean?
Well, because I actually had a face-to-face encounter with my mortality about 25, 26 years old.
Okay.
And I was, so this is, now, whether you believe this or not, it's entirely up to you.
Mm-hmm.
But just something to maybe will put you at ease, maybe it'll scare you more, I don't know. I was in Charlotte, Arizona. I just lost my job. I'd gone through a very, very hard period in my life. My top of my teeth were pretty much cracked. I had been through a hell of a ringer, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. And I remember just walking home from a 7-Eleven near the edge of town. I think it was a 7-Eleven. I digress. That really doesn't matter. What matters is what I saw next. I look up into her eyes and I see like this shadow in the distance. And I looked at it and I was like, that can't be real. Because I knew what it was. It was like a shadow of death, literally, and it was like, and it's coming for me. And it's in the distance, and it's not there yet, but if it just hit me right then and there. If I continued down the path I was down, I would meet that face to face, up close. And if it got to the point it was up close and personal, I wasn't walking away from it. And it's humbling. When you see something like that and you just recognize the fact that you don't really have any, it was actually oddly relieving in one sense, in that when you got to that point, there was no judgment, which I thought was that surprised me.
Yeah.
Right? But at the same point, it was like, yeah, you go down this path, you're done. And that encounter with death pretty much killed the majority of my fears. Not all of them, but I mean, it made me realize that my time is short, and all I have is now. So there's all about the things I want, and the things I do, and the things I see, and the things I touch, and all that stuff. Like, I have this life to make whatever impact I'm going to make. So I'm doing stuff that I'm actually looking at the stuff that terrifies me the most, and I'm going to try to face it head on, because that's the only way to grow. If I'm not afraid to face my fears, I'm not afraid to be afraid, what can stop me?
That's exactly right. Nothing would be able to stop you there.
Yeah.
That's what makes fear so fascinating, is because everyone experiences it, depending on what triggers it, but everyone experiences it more than once in their life, and at one point you might be able to overcome it. You might go through that same fear-provoking experience more than once before you can overcome it. It is part of life, it's part of growing, but I think that's why it's a part of our life, it's sort of embedded in us, and I think that's why even in fiction and movies and things like that, people are drawn to horror and darkness because it's almost like training for overcoming your fears in a way. Like you watch other people do it, it's almost like a guidebook on sort of how you can face your own fears. By watching other characters, even if they're fictional, sort of going through it, it kind of gives you hope or an understanding that, you know, I can do that as well, even if it's a completely different sort of trigger for you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, well, here's something I'm going to be doing, and I start tomorrow. I literally start tomorrow, and it scares the hell out of me. And I'm going to actually try to work on my own comic book. I can't draw I'll work with a lick. I don't know anything about the art education. Is going to probably be the steepest learning curve I've ever done in my life, and I don't have good hand coordination. There's all these reasons why it's probably not the best idea for me to do it. At the same token, it terrifies me, so I have to do it. Because if yeah, exactly. And even if it's bad, it doesn't matter. The important thing is I did it.
And that's the thing, like, it's better to try it. I mean, if you fall flat on your ass, like, at least you've tried, rather than, you know, looking down the road, you know, 20 years time and going, I wish I had have,
oh, those are the worst pains.
You know, tried it when I had the chance.
Well, that's the worst pain in life. Like, that's the worst pain. That's the worst pain in your life. Is you have to accept the fact that, you know, anything you try, there's a risk of failure, and there's a risk that things will go wrong and that it will not work out the way you envision. Right? So that's life. That's the way it is, and you have to accept that. Like I think though accepting failure is easier than accepting success. What do you think about that?
I think so too, because quite often when you've succeeded in something, I don't know about other people, but I find that there's almost an element of doubt. Like, did I deserve to succeed in that? Or is it a fluke? Can I sustain that? Can I do it again? Like, all that sort of self-doubt and questioning comes in. Yet when you fail at something, I'm sort of like, all right, well, yeah, that didn't work. What can we do better next time? Pick yourself up you go. And it's almost, you can take more positive out of a negative than you can in reverse.
Well, I think the thing is,
that's just me.
no, actually, that's very real. Because honestly, here's the thing: we all know what it's like to fall on our ass on the bicycle. Like, we all do. Like every one of us knows, right? Every one of us has slipped and fallen on a roller skating rink. Each and every one of us have gone into the water and tried to swim and suddenly started to sink. It's like, what the hell, right? Right? We've all been there, right? It's the reality of the situation is, you know, when you succeed, it's like, holy shit, what have I done? This is new territory. This isn't falling on my ass at all. I'm flying. Wait, I'm flying. How did I get up here? Right? And that's literally like in your head, right? This podcast won an award about 3 years ago, and I got nominated for it for the first time. I actually got in my head a little bit. It's like, what did I do? What the hell did I do to get here? And then I figured out what the solution to that was. I mean, you're always going to have a little bit of that imposter syndrome. But for me, the solution is, okay, I asked myself 3 questions. How did I get here? What do I do well? And what could stop me from coming back?
Good question.
Yeah, because we all can stumble into success. That can happen to anybody. But to stay there requires you to be very honest with yourself. Right? First off, you got to decide if you want this. If the answer is yes, okay, then the next step is, what do I do to stay here or do better or do even better? And everybody in life that's doing this, everybody in life that's seeing this, right? They don't think in those terms. We're not taught to think in those terms, like what happens when you succeed? Because success has its own, comes with expectations. Because you succeed once, you can do it again, right? But how do you do that? And the honest answer to that is, I think you gotta make an honest assessment of yourself. What are you good at? What are you vulnerable to? Right? How can you get in your own way? And what do you do well? And we don't like building ourselves up so good because, again, I think again, it's expectations. I'm a good interviewer. I think I'm a decent podcaster. But that doesn't mean everything I do with it is right. And I have to get better all the time. And in fact, the more I do these things, the more I realize I have a long way to go.
Yeah. There's also, too, like, the more success you have, the more you kind of feel as though you're setting yourself up for a bigger fail.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that sort of doubt in your mind. Oh, you know, I've succeeded here, but if I strive to succeed further, am I just going to fall harder? It doesn't mean you're going to stop trying, but I think that, yeah, sort of the more success you have, or the better you're doing at things. If you're honest and self-aware, that also comes with a lot of sort of self-doubt. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
No.
I think it helps keep you grounded and focused and determined. I think if you take it for granted and you become arrogant and just assume that you deserve it regardless, that's when you're going to fall.
Yeah, no, that's a big one, right? I think the deal with all of us is when you get to that point, if you expect you can have ego's good. I think I should put it like this: ego's good. We all need a little bit of ego. I mean, let's be honest. You're writing books and they're going out there. That takes a certain degree of let's say, bravado, a certain degree of, hey, my words are worth something. That's good. That's a healthy expression of ego, right? But you can always get better. You can always learn.
Always.
Right? You have to kind of, every day you wake up, I assume, like right now, I don't really got a whole lot to my name right now. Like I became a freelancer during this apocalypse because it just seemed like a good time to do it. Because the way I look at it is, if it doesn't work out, I'm in no worse boat than anybody else. And I will at least know what I could and couldn't do. And I like that a lot. Like, I like that quite a bit. And so I'm going for it. Because I don't ever want to work for someone again. I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah.
But again, I have to be very honest with myself. I'm being very honest with myself. I'm being even more critical with myself. Not like that, oh my god, you can't make anything right kind of way. But it's like, no, like, this needs to be better, this needs to be better, this needs to be better. Because I'm now trying to make a living doing this. And I want to make sure that whoever gets me gets their money's worth.
Exactly. I'm sort of going through the same thing at the moment. So I've spent the past, nearly 8 years in a corporate job that it was fun. It was a job. I didn't hate it or anything, but it wasn't my passion. My passion is writing. So while doing my day job, I've been working on my writing before work and days off and things like that. And then a few months ago, I bit the bullet and went on career leave, which was hugely scary and terrifying because we just built a house and we've had our first mortgage and all this pressure to make it work and succeed in making writing my living. And when you're working for yourself and you're accountable for yourself, it's not your boss's responsibility or nobody else's neck on the chopping block if you stuff up. Like, it's completely 100% you. I think it's hugely rewarding, but hugely scary and terrifying, because if it doesn't work, it's all on you.
Yeah.
But I think that's what drives you to make it work, because it's what you're passionate about and it's what you want to do.
Well, you don't want. Here's the thing. I made a decision that I'm not going to resent any choice I make for the rest of my life. Any of them. Even if things blow up in my face, even if things don't work out well, I'm going to just do my thing, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to live my life to the best I can. And the thing is, right, I recognize the fact that means I got to put the work in. That means every day I have to wake up, show up, do stuff. You know, this year I've released 2 books. I've done stuff for other publications as well. I got a deadline with a freelance work. I got to do a freelance gig when I'm done talking to you tonight. I'm doing things all the time, nonstop. And even still, I'm struggling. Like, I know this is going to be a grind for a while yet, but I'm also confident in the fact that, you know what, if I just stick it out and I just keep going, I'm going to get everything I want. Or it doesn't work out. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to have any doubts. That's the goal. I don't really care. I want to succeed. I need to be very clear. I want to succeed. But what I care about more in this whole process is that I don't put myself in a position to doubt myself. Could I have done more? Could I have done this? Could I have done that? No. I'm doing everything I set out to do. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Right? But I'm gonna leave it all out there. I'm not gonna have any doubts, and I'm gonna go forward regardless.
Yeah. So anyway, it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
I think.
A lot of people cheat themselves. I think one of the big things I've noticed with I've had the opportunity to interview hundreds of creators, good, bad, and different. I've talked to the really successful ones. I've talked to the ones that are just getting started, and I've talked to all kinds of people in the middle of the journey, whatever they are. And it's amazing how many writers sabotage themselves before they even get started. And this is, I'm not going to name names because there's that doesn't accomplish anything. But no, it really doesn't. If I name a name, they're just going to get, like, their backs are going to go up. That's not what I want to do. What I mean by that is people look for reasons not to do what they need to do. I've had as a freelancer, I watch this, like, you know, if your priorities are on and you're putting everything you've got into it, you can tell when that person's doing everything they can. But you can also tell when that person isn't. When that person isn't as present in that moment as they should be. And when you see that, you can almost predict exactly what's going to happen to them. To the T. Exactly, you know, to the T, what's going on, what's happening, how is it working out. And I find that with I don't think it's just a writing thing. I think it's a life thing. I think a lot of us have built-in ways to self-sabotage ourselves. And I think what a lot of us don't do is we don't have an honest, like, come to Jesus moment. It's like, okay, I know, like, we're all, well, like, to put this bluntly, we all fuck up. We all make mistakes all the time. That's fine. You can make mistakes. But I don't want to make the same mistakes. I want to screw up in completely different ways.
But again, I think that it all just comes down to fear, and that's what self-sabotaging is. It's setting yourself up so that if you do fail, you're like, oh, well, that's okay because of this, this, and that. And it's the fear of not being able to control the outcome and fearing that if you give everything your all and it doesn't work out, that it's going to hurt. And so if you self-sabotage, you kind of just set yourself up for a little net, for a gentler fall. But you're selling yourself short by doing that, and
the fall in the long run is harder.
It's not going to sustain anything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the fall in the long run is actually a lot harder because at some point in your life, you're going to go 20, 30 years down the road, and you're going to look at yourself and go, what if I had done that? Right? What if? That's painful.
Exactly.
One of my favorite TED Talks is Larry Young's Why You Will Fail to Have a Great Career. And it's exactly about that self-sabotage we do to ourselves. Because I think all of us deep down have, like, this passion. We all have these passions we're called to do. And more often than not, we don't do it. Right? And it's bizarre, but the big reason why, it goes back to the whole horror genre in general, it's fear. We're afraid. We're afraid to look foolish. We're afraid to fail. We're just afraid of something. And we let that fear stop us.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, it's easier said than done, too.
Oh, no.
It's easier to talk about it, but it's a lot of...
There's simple and then there's easy. I'm simplifying it. That doesn't make it easy at all. Quite the opposite, actually. It takes a lot of guts to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to jump in with both feet and just
I have
fingers and work hard.
Well, I have a personal philosophy I think you'll like. I've never let not knowing what I'm doing stop me.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's quite cool, actually.
Well, it's the only way to be. Look. The first time I kissed a girl, I did not know what I was doing. Right? I did not know what the hell I was doing. It's the way it is. Nature kind of figured it out. The girl, and fortunately for me, the girl was a good kisser. I learned really quickly. That's not here nor there. But the thing about that is, right? The thing about that is, right? Everything worthwhile doing, we all start from this point of the unknown. Going back to the very beginning, death, the unknown. Everything we do in life, every journey we do is about self-discovery of who we are. Good, bad, or indifferent. And the thing about it is, it's about, like being or not afraid. Like when I started to learn to swim, I didn't know how to swim. When I wanted to learn how to ride a bicycle, I didn't know how to ride a bicycle. When I wanted to run cross country, I definitely had no clue what the hell I was doing there. My first relationship, I had no idea what I was doing there. I mean, just and if I have kids someday, I'll probably have no idea what I'm doing there either. I mean, that's like
that's the thing, though. Going into anything, you're not going to know what you're doing.
Exactly.
You might have some idea or some concept roughly of what's going to happen, but you don't know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I just like when I was quite young, there was this elderly bloke at the primary school I was at, and he said to us, "The day you stop learning is the day you stop living," and that's always stuck with me because I think it's so true. Like every single day is full of lessons that you can take from it, even if it's something small or something huge, whatever. Like every day you should be learning something, whether it's about yourself or just something random or whatever. It's just that's what life is, and the moment you stop learning about who you are and the world around you and what you're capable of and everything, then you've stopped living. And to me, that's very powerful, and it's something that I try to remember all the time.
Well, I did my first audiobook for a client last month. That was a learning curve. I had some podcast experience I knew what I was doing. Hell no. Some things I had a good idea about going into it, just based on my own experiences doing like ads and stuff like that. Okay, so when you're reading, you read a page or a paragraph at a time, depending on it, based on the structure of the novel I worked on. I read it one page at a time, so I put each page a separate file, and I combined it into one file, and so on and so forth. And okay, I had that nailed down. Sound editing. Okay, I had to relearn everything I thought I knew and amplify that by 1,000,000. And now I'm like, okay, well, just because you have to learn. I'm no longer doing this for fun. I'm no longer doing this for kicks or passion. I'm doing this because I want to do this. I want to help people tell their story the way they feel best suited to tell it. Well, in that case, that means I want success, which means I have to get better. My next podcast that airs is better. I upgraded my microphone, and I'm going to be using that microphone going forward. Small little change, but a big one too, because I can already tell it's a huge difference. Right, and that's going forward. I still got lots of other circumstances to work through and things of that nature, and I have to go through those struggles for the next few months. But my goal is to be a completely self-sufficient mobile studio by the time the winter hits, so that I can do more books, so that I can get more clients, because my work will be good. I know what I'm doing a lot more now too. The next book will be easier for me to make than this book was, because I know I have a better, clearer understanding of what to do. There'll be different challenges. No project's the same, but I know what I'm doing a lot more now. I'm competent.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just say that. I'm competent, right? And I grew. Like, I'm a much better audio engineer than I was when I started.
Yeah. But that's the way it should be. Everything that you do should be a little better than the last time.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't go into anything with the intention to half-ass it. Like, you should go into it with the intention of doing the absolute best that you can. And that's not to say that it's the best you'll ever do, but it's the best you've got for that particular project. and then on the next one, you take what you've learned from the last one,
Yeah.
and improve it again and again and again, and it goes on and on. And that's exactly how it should be. If you put out a book that is the same quality and concepts and stuff as the one you put out beforehand, then you haven't taken anything away from it. Because I guarantee you that you should have improved between one and the other. If you're working hard.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems, I had this conversation with Team Media Writer just aired about last week. When I write a book, I always worry about what I actually have to say. Because what I have to say will actually reflect a lot more in the book than we all are telling a piece of our own stories. Right? Whether we acknowledge this or not. Like, I get the sense with you, the reason why you like horror and dark fantasy so much is because you have a fascination with the unknown. And I think for you, it's as much about exploring that unknown and where it could possibly lead. Good, bad, or indifferent. Maybe it goes towards the, maybe you're more towards the Alice Cooper side of things than, say, in sync style phase, and we'll let everybody else decide what the actual horror music in that situation is. But the thing is, there's every story we write says something about us as well. Good, bad, or indifferent. My Cloud Diver series talks about me getting out of my comfort zone. It's a big part of that story. My Alice in Wonderland Mash Greek mashup is talking about ultimately how to deal with the disease. Something that when you're in control of your body, how do you keep going and living? Some of that's personal experience. Some of that is just based on the fact that, when I was a kid, I remember my mom had asthma. And I remember saw some of the horrors she went through as a little bit as that. So there's definitely a little bit of that going to be in that story. My current work in progress is my looking at how the wealthy prey upon the poor. Also how the fact that, can a bad person become a good person? I'm saying something different with each story, though. And so that adds a flavor to what I'm writing. So it's never the same. Does that make sense, or am I on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think also too that as you progress with each book, your ability to get your message across gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you write and the way you put those concepts forward to the reader improve, because you're honing your own skill with each story that you write.
I agree. Novel 2 is going to be so much different than Novel 1 was. Novel 1 was, I'm proud of it. But looking back, I can look back and see things that could be better. And this next book is going to be better than Novel 1 was. And then when I do the sequel to that series, the temptation I'm going to have is to improve the first book. And I'm not sure I should or shouldn't. I'm really torn on that one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I know quite a few people that toy with the idea of doing that, and I guess it really depends on each personal project. But when I was at my first book, and I think initially I was just so excited that I wrote a whole novel. To me, that was like, wow, that was the big deal. It's a whole novel, and I wrote it all myself. And then, as much as I'm proud of it and I love it, I can still see, as you said, looking back, there's so many ways that I could improve it. But at the same time, I kind of think that if you go back over it and redo it, you're sort of taking away from that initial milestone. So for me personally, I wouldn't rewrite my first novel. I have been asked if I would do a sequel, and I'd probably use that as the means to sort of improve upon it. But I kind of think my improvements come from subsequent books, even though they're not linked in any way to the first one. That's where I sort of focus on my improving. But I think also with my first book, because I was a fledgling writer, it was my first novel, I think if I was to go back now with the things that I know, I might actually take away from some of the storytelling by trying to improve it, if that makes sense. I might actually wreck it.
No.
Trying to go back over it and putting what I know in now, because it was a different time and a different stage of my life.
Well, it's also just the simple fact that your voice isn't the same. I think with every story, there's a 3-year window to tell it. That's my belief. After 3 years, you can't tell it anymore. That doesn't mean, like, okay, I have a novel that's been in my head for about 20 years. It's been percolating and percolating and percolating and percolating. And I'm not ready to tell that story yet. I don't know how. I really, like, just an honest assessment. And the story has changed in my head quite a bit, too. Right? About what matters in that story has changed quite a bit. Because my voice is different. My voice at 20 is different than my voice at 30. My voice at 35 is different than my voice at 30. My voice at 39, which is where I am now, is different than my voice at 35.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I cannot duplicate that voice because I'm not that person anymore. I'm better, hopefully.
Yeah, 100%. And so if you try and go back and rewrite something that you wrote, 5-10 years ago, it's going to have a completely different tone. And won't wreck it. It's what it was for when you wrote it.
For when I wrote it. And also no work is perfect. And that's the one thing too. That's
exactly.
Right? I actually think, so I decided that unchanging perfection is truly hell. I think that is something that, I think perfection as a concept is a good thing. As a reality is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
That was a quick... Sorry.
I think if you say something's perfect, then you're not looking at it closely enough. That's my opinion.
Well, I think there's some truth to that too, definitely. But I think life has changed. That's just it. Life has changed. If you just find perfection as a state of not being able to change anymore, that maximum state of evolution, there's only one place left to go, and that's death. That's it.
Yeah. See you later. You're done.
That's it. You've done everything again. Like when we die, we are perfect because that is as far as we're gonna grow.
Yeah.
That's it. Right?
I'm in no hurry to get there. So.
No. I'm not saying to be in a hurry, but I mean But like, if we hit that perfect world concept, we're done. That's it.
Exactly.
It's over. We might as well just
learn. No more growth.
We're extinct. That's what happens to us. Once we hit that point, we just go extinct.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, let's see here. How many books have you done?
3. One was a collection of short stories and 2 full-length novels.
Ah. So, I'm sure you noticed the difference between the first book and the third book, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But if you would look back so far in this journey, because you're doing what I'm doing, and you're just going for it, right? Nice. When you're in this journey, you learn things. Some of it's technical, some of it's personal. So my big question is for you is, what have you learned? It's a hard question, I know.
I think I've learned to have a little bit more faith in myself. Again, coming from someone that has been a self-sabotager in the past, basically going, I don't have time for that bullshit anymore. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to give it 100%. And it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. But I'm going to give it everything that I've got. And that's sort of my biggest lesson, is just believe that you can do it. And I think a lot of that does stem from actually having completed my first novel. That for me was a massive milestone, because that took years for me to actually finish it. So I'm like, you can do it. You've proven to yourself that you can do it. So just keep going. And I think that you've got to back yourself, especially in this kind of industry where you spend a lot of time on your own just working with yourself. If you don't believe in it, no one else is going to believe in it either.
That's right.
So like you were saying before, that you need that healthy dose of ego to be able to push through it, because if you don't have that, it's
done.
You might as well not bother.
You have, like I said, all the things they say that are bad for you, in small doses are actually quite good for you. You need ego.
Yeah.
You need a little ruthlessness. You need a little bit of ambition and drive to go for things. You need it. There's no...
And you need a little fear.
Yeah, a little bit. Just a little.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You have to have a sense of urgency for sure. Because if you don't... Because again, you only got, like, the one... I don't know what it is about with you, but for me, I treat my time like it's gold. Like I do, I just do. I treat it like this is the only moments I have, and if I treat it like that, I find that I do more because there's always that urgency to do something. And I'm not necessarily like even not just career, but personal. Like everything in my head that I want to do in this life. There's a drive to do everything, to do all those things. I may never complete all of them, but again, I don't think that's necessarily the point either. The point is to try.
Yeah, so I think what it comes down to, if you're taking accountability for how you use your time and your own actions, then you're going to put in more effort, because it's anything that doesn't get done can't be blamed on anyone or anything else. It's all you. And so I think that if you've got appreciation for the time that you've got and you want to make the most of it regardless of what the task is that you're doing, and you're 100% accountable for how you use that time, then I think you're always going to have a better outcome regardless of what it is that you're working on. Whether it's time with your family or a writing project for yourself or a project for someone else, you've just got to be mindful of the time that you've allocated or the time that you've got to spend on it, and just be accountable for how you use that time.
Yeah. But that's it. Like we're all accountable for ourselves, and at the end of the day, we do exactly what we want to do, and that is our gift and our curse.
Yeah.
I think I like you, Miss Liz.
Oh, well, thank you. I like you too, Josh.
Yes. I'm gonna ask a personal question, and I hope I don't get a throat punch for it, because I don't want to. I don't want to.
You say girl punch?
No, a throat punch. A throat punch. Punch to the throat. I don't want to talk like this. I want to be able to talk like me, but I have to. I'm just. This is just. It's honestly a legit curiosity. How old are you?
Oh, don't you know you're never supposed to ask a girl how old they are?
Yeah, that's why I said don't throat punch me, because I have a reason for asking this question. It's not like,
okay.
But I'm just curious.
Alright, well, I do appreciate a curious mind. So I am 39, I'll be 40 next year.
Hey, we're the same age. Awesome.
Nice.
Yes, I'm 39 too. I'm 39 years old and still think like a 12-year-old, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm the adult, and I'm not sure how that happens, but that's not.
Yeah, it's like, I look like an adult, I don't feel like an adult, and I usually don't sound like an adult, so...
Well, actually, sometimes it's like, wait, I'm the adult here? Really? Guys, you failed epically. If I'm the adult, you guys suck.
Exactly.
Oh, dear God. Yeah, waste of reason stuff sucks. No, I asked this question because it sounds to me like this is my theory. We're at our most self-destructive in our 20s, generally speaking. All of us to some degree, because we are adults, and we're no longer defining ourselves as by our parents, trying to figure out our own ways in the world. And we all go through our stuff. But when we get to our 30s, we just realize, like, we're a lot more at ease with who we are. It's like, hey, I'm me, and that's great. That's awesome. And at some point, I think there's an acceptance of that. And I'm just curious when it happened with you.
Yeah, I think it's exactly the same. It's like in the 20s, you're sort of coming off the back of high school, where everything revolved around friends and who had what and all that kind of stuff, and you're finding your feet where you want to go, and there's all that uncertainty that comes with all of those big life choices. And then I think, yeah, sort of once you hit your 30s, you're kind of finding your own stride. And I think that when you realise what it is that you want to do, or you start doing what it is that you want to do, I think that's when everything else sort of falls into place, and you, I guess, realise what you do have time for and what you no longer have time for. It's almost like shedding skin like a snake. You sort of just let things fall away that no longer
matter,
serve you, that you're not growing from anymore. And I think also it comes with age, but quiet self-confidence that you probably didn't have when you were younger. I know that's certainly true for me. I used to have the most ridiculously low self-esteem. It was tragic. And while I still don't have great self-esteem, I've got enough that I'm confident in my competency to do the things that I want to do. but again, I think it's growth and it's life, and you should be able to look back and see how you've grown and changed since high school or whatever. But for me, definitely in my 30s, and I think it was also because I was 30 when I started writing Bates Fury and toying with the idea of getting sort of back into writing and making an actual proper adult attempt at it. So that also probably played a big role because it was the two things at the same time. And I guess I'm not scared of turning 40. I'm kind of excited because I'm just like, well, 30s were freaking awesome. I'm excited to see what I learn in my 40s. So yeah, I think you let go of what you don't need anymore, and you hold on to the things that are helping you grow.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm actually really worried because how little I give a shit now. How much less?
There's also that, isn't there? Yeah.
Well, you just don't care anymore. It's nothing worth caring about. There's very little in this life that really matters. Are you doing what you love? Are you with people you love? Are you taken care of? And even if one of those is missing, are you seeking those things? Because nothing else matters, really.
Yeah. I mean, you look back at sort of your school years and probably even your early 20s and stuff, there's so much focus on, I guess, status and who's got this and who's got that and who said that about who and this person's doing that, and there's just so much focus on what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is thinking, and I think as you get older, you're just like, I don't give a crap what they're doing. Like, I've got my own life, I'm doing my own thing, and all that stuff just seems kind of petty and
stupid,
not relevant. I think the older you get, but not to take away from it. At the time, at that age, I mean, it's all important, and that's your life. But I think as you get older, you realise you don't need that. You can't sustain that your entire life. It's exhausting and it's depleting, and you just learn to let it all go and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, live a healthy life. It's like, I want all the things. Like, I look at people. Do you really want all the things? Do you really? Because it doesn't really seem worth it. But, right? It's like, what do you actually want? And it's funny to get that reaction because it's like, wait, you don't care? So, nope. What about this? Nope. What about that? Nope. What do you care about? I had coffee this morning. I like chocolate. I put my pants on. I'm still here. Nothing hurts. I'm good.
Yeah.
Little things are amazingly more important as you get older. You appreciate them more.
I think that's what it comes down to as well. The older you get, the more you've got the ability to appreciate what you've got, especially if you've worked hard for it. And I think that perhaps when you're younger, things can have a tendency to feel more disposable or replaceable, and there's probably less appreciation of how you accumulate things or how life happens, I guess, essentially. I think it's as you get older, you form an appreciation and have, I guess, more of a sense of gratitude for everything that you've got, and probably a bit more of an open mind that not everybody has that as well. So I think your perspective of the world gets larger the older that you get, and when you're younger, it can be quite more of a confined space, very small bubble. So I think that bubble grows as you do, which is not a bad thing at all.
That's fantastic. I love that I'm more aware of the world than I was when I was younger. Definitely. Miss Liz, I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
What, sorry?
I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
I think we do. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
A great one.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. You are... I admire you. And ladies and gentlemen, Liz was very kind to interview me. I'll be sharing that link when it goes up. But...
Yes, it'll go up this weekend.
Yeah. But before it does, before everything else happens, why don't you plug your books and how people can find you, Miss Liz?
Oh, okay. So my two books are out, Bates Fury and Maroon Manor, which came out last month, and you can find them via Amazon or anywhere you can buy an ebook. You can also check them out on my website, which is www.lizbutcher.com.au. And you can also find me on Instagram under @LittleLoveLiz, the same handle for Twitter.
Nice.
Thank you.
Let me help you tell your story the way you want it told. If you're in the genres of science fiction, fantasy, thriller, historical, or young adult, I have services that can definitely help you. I can produce, narrate, and master said audiobook so it's ready for Amazon or any other software you need. For more information, see my website at jpenteloresco.wordpress.com/audiobook services. You worked hard to create that story, and I'll work just as hard to make sure it's told in the right way. First and foremost, Liz Butcher is amazing. She has a great interview with me on her website, which is in the description below. Get her books. She's an incredible talent, author, freelancer, and I really enjoyed my chat with her. Liz, anytime you want to come back, you're welcome to. I hope you come back on the new show. So, what am I doing exactly? What's the difference? It's going to be a visual show. It's going to be it's going to be streamed live on YouTube. At least for now on YouTube. I want to go to Twitch. It's going to be a Twitch show. I'm going to be looking for support for my Patreon. I'm going to hopefully, build a foundation on my Patreon. I've been looking more and more towards. I've been looking for just some part-time work to, build this up. And I got some temporary work coming up sometime real soon. And when I do, everything's going to be building towards this. This is the path I need to go, and I know it's right because everything else I've tried, there's always like that pit in my stomach. It's like, what if? There's no pit. There's no hesitation. I know this is going to work. I got a great lineup of people already, and I got more coming. So, Zing's in. Elsa Garagoza, Kurt Zauer, and a book brush demonstration tonight are going to be little previews of things to come. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. I am ecstatic about the things I'm doing with this. So I hope you feel the same way, number one. Number two, that's what the Patreon's going to be about. I'm going to be asking you guys for help. What do you want to see me do on the show? Like, do you want me to do continue to do readings? I can read. I can. Are there any guests in particular you're looking for? Is there anything in the show you want, like shout outs? I'm going to be doing shout outs to people that support the show on a regular basis. Video graphics will definitely come up as time goes on. I'm thinking that Twitch is going to be where the location of my show. I hope people tune in. I think people will. I have a plan, and I think it's going to work quite well. It's going to be a crazy show, a lot of cool guests, and I'm super excited about it. And it's going to be a lot more regular. If you're going to go, might as well go all in, I'd say. Stay tuned in the weeks to come for more details. And I got other things coming up too. So I'm excited. And that'll do it for this episode, Just Josh. And if you want to support the podcast, you can do so in a number of different ways. Subscribe to the podcast. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, Audible. Oh, and I should mention that, yes, this podcast will continue in an audio format, although it will be a lot more regular, and I hate my life just a little bit, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, like I said, this is the right path. So my advice to you in this time, do what you do out of love, man. Not out of fear, out of love. Life is short. And we all have this chance to build this life we want to. We always have that option. I don't care what your circumstances are. Everything in life is hard. Everything. Right? You have to make your choices based on what you feel is right for you. Make sure you're making your choices based in love. Because that will be the right way, regardless of whatever else you're doing in life, whatever you sacrifice. Get what you want, man. It only comes around once. Now let's do this right. That'll do it for this episode. It's Josh. You want to support the podcast, you can do so in a number of different ways. Subscribe to the podcast. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, Audible. You name it, I'm there. Support my Patreon. This is going to become a bigger show, and it's going to be awesome. Get on the ground floor now. It's going to be a lot of fun when it really gets rolling. let's see, I got merchandise, jpentoresco.redbubble.com. My books, The Cloud Diver and Alice Zero, are currently available now on Amazon. Buy those. Leave reviews for the podcast. Okay, guys, stay inspired. Keep surfing the chaos. And I'll talk to y'all soon.
Josh.